Sorry I'm late, John. I was the base of a human pyramid. True story.
So that would explain why you completely missed our interview with Matt.
Yes, completely missed it. I feel insanely guilty.
Why was there a human pyramid?
So my wife and my daughter do like yoga and stuff and circus skills, and they've come across a video of people showing how to do human pyramids, how to do them safely, how to construct them safely. And so I was the base of this human pyramid so they can climb on top of me.
If you ever need a hooper, that's my skill.
Oh, okay. You're a hooper, are you?
I can do hooping, yeah. This is the Sheer Isolation podcast. It's presented by Kieran Moore and Jon Ponting. Welcome to the Sheer Isolation podcast. We are onto our fifth programme now, Kim. We're getting proper old hands at this now, and yet we're still being really amateur about it.
Look, I think amateur is where we connect with people. We're not pretending we're anything we're not. We are two guys in our dining room / bedrooms just having fun.
Yeah. Creating a podcast which is there to promote the local music scene, which needs promotion at the moment.
It does need promoting, and we don't know what's happening with this whole lockdown. We're going to come out the other side of it, and we've got to be ready. So we've got to look after our local scene.
So this week on the podcast, we are joined by Matt Otridge, who is the person in charge of the Exchange in Bristol, which is a great little venue.
It's a fantastic venue, and I've been chatting to Matt quite a lot recently, and I've learned so much more about it that I didn't even realise before.
In the interview, he actually talks about all the different bits as well, all the different components of the Exchange. So it's its own little hub of music, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and one that I hope to emulate in Trowbridge.
That's the main ambition, is it? That's the big plan.
It's where I live here now, so I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. Right, we are going to play a track, and we are going to play a song by Olivia Awbrey, who is somebody I'm not too familiar with, but I believe you are.
Yes, so Olivia, she come to my attention via Chris TT a couple of years ago, and he's just sent me a message saying, Kieran, Olivia is this amazing talent, you've got to check her out. And I checked her out, and I loved her music, and she came to the UK. She comes from Portland in Oregon, and she did a couple of tours of the UK, little acoustic shows like the Devices, at the Lamb, at the Cellar Bar, etc. And we got to know her. She stayed in my house a few times. Lovely woman. Anyway, she going to record this proper debut album, and she came to London. She did some recording with Chris TT's backing band, the Hood Rats. It's got some really cool musicians on there, like Jen Malco and people like that. And then she went away back to America, and she was due to come to the UK in September to tour this album. And I think it's fair to say that that's probably not going to happen. But she's ploughed ahead with the release anyway, because obviously you've got schedules, you can't not release it. And she sent me through, I did like Bandcamp it, pre-ordered it, and she sent me through the MP3s, and it's just fantastic. So much power. It does have that Hood Rat sound to it. I don't know if I'm placing that on the music or if anybody else could hear it, but brilliant songs, incredibly well recorded. They just sound fantastic.
Ruth is poised at the ready outside the Portland Art Museum. I know if I go in with her, we might not come out again. And she says, let me blow your mind, then you can blow mine right back. Then together we can break down the fourth wall, level this platform fast. Begin with zeros and ones, wipe all your data to nullify who has won. And as the earth bleeds dry, as the rivers rise, we'll shape a story with the courage we might survive. On the second floor gallery, she turns to me, says I'm worn out from the 70s, but anger, it knows no defeat. Then all I see is pictures of people taking pictures. gods have got to rule, and the rulers have got to eat. So I say it's awfully scary outside. My phone's been tracking every place we hide. Museum walls crack and a laughing spree, and geolocation has made a joke out of you and me. You can tell me all your secrets, and I will never rat you out. As many waves as it takes to break the glass ceiling down. You can tell me all your secrets, I will never rat you out. Let's organize these rash ideas, keep me safe underground. So let's live life on the fringe, 'cause we're already there. Spread ourselves till we're thin. Art is not for sale. Put all our money on last week's win, 'cause it's not ours anyway.
That was Olivia Awbrey with Geolocation at Pam. And you said she's got a new album, new material coming
Yes,
out.
so I think it's a debut, proper full length, 11 tracks, recorded in London with Chris TT's crew, and it sounds fantastic. She was due to play in Trowbridge or Wiltshire at some point on September the 11th, which I thought was quite poetic, given that she's American, and it's quite a significant date to the Americans now. And we were going to have that date, but obviously it's pretty sure it's not happening now, which is really sad.
Well, when you say she was due to play in Trowbridge or Wiltshire, are you actually going for independence now down in Trow Vegas?
Yeah, independence. No. Well, we've got our own flag, haven't we? No, I just, because I would have been anywhere. I would have just organised a show and we would have put it somewhere. But I was planning on doing it at the Village Pump. But yeah, I think that's happening.
So you mentioned you've been going back to work this week, which is good for yourself. So you obviously, this is at the Neald Hall, is it, or the Trowbridge?
No, this is at Neald at the Neald. It's in Chippenham at the Neald. And today I've been mostly hanging some moving headlights, and they require a lot of focusing. They require a lot of. I'm not very good at it. I'm still developing those skill sets for the moving heads and the lights and that. So I was hanging those and programming them, and it's one of those really infuriating tasks, because you've got to. Everything is just like, why doesn't it work? And you press some more buttons and then it does it, and you're like, great, but why is it working? I don't know why. It's just it's awful.
We're not going to get into another rant about laptops, are we? That was.
No, this is not a laptop. No, it's all computer. It's all syntax based. It's a big mixing desk. It's not laptops.
Sounds like fun.
It doesn't have enough ports.
Yeah, we covered that last week. We don't need to go there again. Okay, so I think it's time for us to go on to our interview for this week. So earlier on, before Kieran joined us, because he was running very late today, I spoke to Matt Otridge, who is the guy in charge of the Exchange in Bristol. So for those who haven't been to the Exchange, as Kieran said previously, it's not a massive venue, but they get some impressive music in there, and it's more of a community centre than your typical music venue. Matt's also, I mean, a few weeks ago when we had Frank Turner on, he was talking about the Music Venues Trust, and Matt's heavily involved with that as well, isn't he?
Yeah, Matthew is the Southwest's sort of regional coordinator. So I don't know if anybody knows Sam Dabb at Le Pub in South Wales, in Newport, but Sam Dabb is the Welsh representative. So I think every region in the UK has a representative for the Music Venues Trust, and they are sort of connecting the actual Music Venues Trust to the local community, literally right down to individual venues. And it's people like Matt doing that work, and he's doing a fantastic job. So credit to him.
Yeah. So as I said, the exchange it's a relatively it's a newcomer to Bristol. It's not been around that long. So I started by asking Matt just about how it all came about.
2012 we started, so it's amazing how the time flies. Before that, we did run another venue in Bristol, now known as the Crofters' Rights. At the time, it was the Croft. So been involved in venues for quite a long time. But yeah, I guess our reputation at the Croft just followed us to the exchange when we went there. So it maybe allowed us to punch above our weights, before it gave us, most venues would have to spend a lot more time establishing themselves, wouldn't they? But our reputation meant that we got ahead of the curve on that one.
Obviously, we're in a really unique time in our lives at the moment with venues like yourselves not being able to open. So what do you what do you do, I suppose, is the question. How do you cope with that?
Well, I guess you just got a forward plan and try to mitigate the disaster, really. As a venue, as a whole, that's what most venue owners have to do. And I think there's varying degrees of what that involves, depending on what financial situation you're in and what resources you have. With the exchange, we became a community-owned venue a couple of years ago, and part of that was raising a large amount of money, and that's meant that we're okay because we managed to successfully budget that money well. We brought in all of the projects that we wanted to complete under budget, which also meant that, which now means that we got a nice sum in the bank so that we can survive this disaster. But moving on to what do you do, or what have I been doing during lockdown? I've been actually working for the Music Venues Trust, and so I'm in contact with about 75, 76 venues now in the Southwest, and so I'm seeing a complete range of circumstances with some venue owners maybe have a pub that does a bit of live music and they live in the pub, so not only is their business gone out the window, they're worried at the moment whether they're going to be able to continue living where they're living. There's a lot of people very worried out there because, unfortunately, live music venues are very valuable to the community, but they're not very valuable in most circumstances to people's bank accounts. There's a lot of goodwill and love from the owners who run music venues, and quite often that means that they don't have the financial resources when something like this happens. Not that something like this ever really happens. It's happened once in our lifetime, and it's hit a lot of them for six. So obviously, the Save Our Venues campaign is helping with that. There's been some government grants. There's been other support out there, but a lot of venues at the moment are just trying to survive month to month, hoping to be there when the restrictions are eventually lifted.
Yeah. So how do you see the next step? So as we begin to lift and ease from where we currently are, what would you see being the best scenario for music venues?
I think the best case scenario is that they find a vaccine as soon as possible and they allow us to reopen with full capacities, because anything else is going to be difficult, and it's very difficult. I try not to speculate too much on it because it's just completely out of our remit and understanding, really, isn't it? I think the best, I don't know, that's the only eventuality that we're all able to deal with at the moment. Anything else that involves social distancing, that involves different capacity levels, what time we reopen, it's all out of our hands, I suppose.
It is, yeah. It's a really difficult one to answer, and I appreciate I just threw that question at you. But I suppose, as you mentioned earlier on, the exchange is in the fortunate state that you're quite stable financially, and you've got that cash in the bank. But there are a lot of venues who are going to struggle. So if you're speaking to these venues, maybe these one-man bands, these people who say you live in the flat above the venue, who really have no income coming in, it's obviously going to have a much bigger impact. Do you think we're going to see a lot of venues closing later this year?
Well, hopefully not. I mean, I'm hoping that the work that I'm involved in with the Music Venue Trust, and I can't take much credit for that. I'm just coordinating things in the Southwest, and but the core team are doing an absolutely amazing job at the moment. We're helping venues identify where they are eligible for funding, pushing them in the right direction of how they can generate income, and obviously the Save Our Venues campaign itself is hopefully fundraising money with artists giving up their time to play sets to raise on behalf of the venues that they really care about. So we're hoping that will limit the amount of venues that might go under. Hopefully none will go under. That's the aim. But I guess time will tell when we find out what the next raft of support measures from the government is or isn't going to be. It's hard to imagine a situation where, if we are going to be shut for the long haul, that there isn't going to be some other government intervention, just because why would they have put in the amount of money that they've put in at the start to then allow everything to go under? That just seems like throwing good money after bad. But I mean, unfortunately, we're not the decision makers, although obviously Music Venues Trust do have an open line to the government. They're speaking to the DCMS, which is the Department of Culture, Sports and Media, every day, I think. So, I mean, hopefully what they are saying and the analysis that they've done of the situation is getting back to central government, and hopefully further steps will be taken to safeguard the future of these vital institutions.
Yeah, certainly. Let's hope so. For people who've not been to the Exchange, you're quite a unique venue yourselves, aren't you? First off, you're not just a venue, because you've got a couple of other things like a record shop upstairs and things like that. But also you're not managed in kind of the typical way either, are you?
No, that's right. So so at the Exchange, let's talk about what happens there first. We've got obviously we got one live room that's 250 people can go into. We have a second room now in the basement, a little more DIY stage, which is 60 capacity. And then also in the basement, we have Joe's Garage, which is run by a local engineer, which is a recording studio. Then up on the first floor, we have the record shop, which is run by Specialist Subject. Out the back, we have a book distribution, which is active distribution. And just to top it all off, we have a kitchen and a cafe that runs during the day. So we're very busy. And then in terms of the Exchange itself, in 2018, as I mentioned earlier, we ran a community ownership campaign. So actually, we're what is known as a community benefit society. We currently have 396 members, all of which invested into the Exchange. So it's a very interesting setup, but it does mean that we're constituted not for profit, and it does mean that we have like a lot of people, inputting their ideas and, helping us shape the future of the Exchange. And, a large part of doing the share raise in the first place and creating this structure was to ensure that the Exchange would last for years to come, because, we've all seen these venues come and go, venues that really mean a lot to people. And I think now people are beginning to realise that, it can't just all be tied up to sort of one or two people who really care about the place. So we're hoping that with the structure we've got, eventually the succession will be managed a lot better. And eventually, the proudest we could be with it would be if in 20 years' time we had nothing to do with it, and it was still being ran, and as it is now, as a great live music venue, probably with lots of other things happening in it by that point, an arcade, and I don't know, that's some other mad idea. So
I'm not sure what else you could be able to fit in there. You've got so many things going on.
Yeah.
Now, in the back of my mind, and this may be a wrong thing to say, but is it right that the Idols have something to do with the exchange? Or they formed, or they?
Yeah, the Dev, the bassist, was the manager there for a few years, like 2 or 3 years. So that obviously they played at the exchange a bunch of times as well. So yeah, that's the connection. So
okay, bit of a claim to fame for the venue then.
yeah. So he still owes us a shift. I think he got accidentally paid for a bar shift that he didn't work on one of his last weeks there, and so he's always promised that he'll come back and work it at some point. We're just keeping it for the right time. We're just going to make sure we believe that the fame's going to go up and up and up, and we're just going to wait until he's like their international. Well, they're already internationally renowned, but until they're as big as, I don't know, U2 are or something like that, and then that's when we'll get him back in. So
yeah, keep the post-it note handy. Don't lose that one.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so just finally then, obviously going back to the charity work, what can we do as music supporters to help our venues through this?
Well, I think a lot of venues are probably putting out there the ways that they can be helped, because they're all sort of managing it in different ways. Some of them are selling T-shirts and tote bags, for example. Some, like the Exchange or whatever, are sort of offering membership if people want to get involved. But then obviously there's a whole raft of venues, probably around about 150 now, who've signed up to the Save Our Venues campaign. So if, I think that's probably the first port of call, is if there's a venue that's really important to you, to check out what they say that they're doing themselves. And then, after that, thinking about other venues that you go to and that you enjoy, and seeing what they're doing, checking out the saveourvenues.co.uk and seeing if there's any venues on there that mean something to you, and then just see potentially what artists are up to, because a lot of them will be supporting certain venues that were very important to them in their formative years. So if there's a potential, and then obviously that's all comes with the caveat that these are hard times for everybody, and not everybody is being furloughed, and not everybody has income coming in at the moment. So, I mean, obviously, if you're in that position, you shouldn't be sort of being, just think about sharing these things on social media instead. I don't think anybody's expecting, these are difficult times, and there's a lot of worthy causes out there, aren't there? So,
yeah, definitely. There's a lot of people looking for donations at the moment, so it's difficult to know where to pick the penners. Just to finally, have you got any local bands or any bands from the area that are particularly in your head at the moment, just so we can see if we can track down a song to play out of this?
Yeah, I think I sent across a song already to
that's fine. Then I will chase Kieran down and get
yeah,
the details.
That's all right, no worries. I'll tell you what, I'll talk about all of the ones that have a link to the Exchange, people who work at the Exchange, because it's nice to make sure that people are hearing them in these difficult times with them, since they've got no work on. So there's Woahnows, which was the track that I sent to Kieran. There's Dog-Eyed. Again, they're on, both of those bands released a specialist subject, and Toodles and the Hectic Pity. They're also a specialist subject band, so a lot of love going on there. There's Amphiprof, a bit more sort of psychedelic sort of heavy music. Let's see, there's Anta, which is Joe from the Basement. That's his band. Who else have we got? Caves, Minty plays in them. Who else? Oh, the Holy, what are they called? The Holy Youth Movement. They've only just, a sort of newish band, one of our guys in the bar plays in, but they played their first gig supporting Primal Scream, I think. So that was a good place to start. So that's probably not everybody, because there's so many people at the Exchange, and so many of them are involved in bands, and that's what we like down there. And hopefully we'll just keep churning them out like Idols. It'll just be massive band after massive band, and they'll all owe us a shift in the end. So.
And I couldn't do anything
And that was Woahnows with a song called Dipping Out. Many people will know that Woahnows is fronted by a chap called Tim Parker-Rowe, who also goes under the stage name of Immy. And that is also fantastic and well worth checking out. I came across Woahnows when they toured with Narwhals. And I booked Narwhals for the Music Box in Salisbury. And they were the support band, and they just blew me away. I fell in love with them, loved at first sight, and I bought all of their vinyl ever since. And yeah, so that was Dipping Out by Woahnows, and I seriously suggest you check out the rest of their music as well as the new solo stuff from Immy.
Kieran, in the last week, we've now heard that another one of our big festivals isn't going to go ahead this year, which was Arctangent.
Arctangent, yes.
Now we've got James from 2000 Trees and Arctangent coming on as
next week,
so we can ask him more about that. But
I won't be late for that one.
You will. You're always late. But it was expected. So it's a difficult time.
And it's a lovely update from 2000 Trees. I don't know if you've been keeping up to date with their crowdfunder, but this morning one of my friends woke up and it was on something like £2,000. When I logged in this afternoon, it was on £26,000. So they're really doing fantastic with their crowdfunding to support next year's festival. So all being well, it will happen next year, and they're going to have a big old party. I've not actually been to Arctangent proper yet. But they always have wet weather there. Despite it being in August, they always seem to get rained on. So
that happened to us when we did Tree Fest. So we always did Tree Fest at the bank holiday weekend. And I don't think we had a single run in the 6-7 years that we did it where we had a completely 3 dry days. If anything, we had more thunder and lightning days than sunny days.
It's mad, isn't it?
Have you got much coming up this week in terms of streams?
We're still waiting for Joe Edwards, who has agreed to do a stream for us. He's just in the process of releasing his album, and he's getting some really good feedback on it. We're still hoping that he was going to come on board very soon and do a stream for us. So that is still work in progress. Although if you head over to the Sheer Music Facebook page, you will discover that today, which is Thursday, I found a really old Makeout Kids video that was unlisted on YouTube, because at the time they were about to get signed to a label and that, and they said, oh, can you hide all of our embarrassing videos from the past, which I did at their request. And I found it again. I thought, well, it doesn't matter now. I can re-release it 10 years later. And it's a great video of Jed Elliott, who's now in the Struts, playing acoustic guitar in the Lamb.
Well, I think we've managed to put another podcast together.
Excellent.
So we should do that little line that we say that if any bands want to get in touch with us, or you got any streams, or you got any videos you want to share, the email address is sheerisolation@gmail.com. You can find this podcast in video form on YouTube, and you can find it in audio form on various podcasting streaming services, and also on several of Wiltshire's radio stations. Cool.
Right. Always a pleasure, John. Thank you so much.
Lovely to chat to you. See you next week.
Take care, guys.
Bye.